Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I kind of just wanted to hop on here and make an in defense of, or in the case of, The Acolyte. We know that The Acolyte has received a lot of negative attention and criticism. I want to defend against certain aspects of the show that it seems like the general public seem to not have liked. So to kick this list off, I'm going to start off with number one. The main issue that it seems like people have taken with this series is the dialogue, the writing. Now, this one, I can understand some of the criticisms that people have. What I ended up realizing is that if you look at the dialogue and how it's expressed, it actually is somewhat similar, not exactly the same, but it's somewhat similar to the writing that we saw in the prequels. And we know that the prequels back in the day received a whole lot of hate. And the writing was one of the main issues, the main qualms that it seemed as though people have had. But then I thought about this. Something that George Lucas said, he mentioned that Star Wars is basically a soap opera in space. And I even remember that Hayden Christensen, he was doing an interview, and I read about this online, in which he said that, and this is not quoting from him directly, this is me paraphrasing, but he basically said that the writing or the way characters speak in Star Wars is not the same as how we would speak, today. There's a bit of a difference in cadence. There's a bit of a difference in tone. And so if you think of The Acolyte and if you think of the prequel trilogy as more of that, having more of a soap opera-esque type of dynamic, then I do think that you might be able to get away with how certain things were expressed on screen. I'll say personally, for me, what's so hilarious is that I actually got into soap operas last year, and I went way back. I was watching soap operas that came out in the 60s. I was watching reruns of certain storylines that they had the 70s, the 80s, 90s. I'm somewhat up to date with what's happening in the soap opera universe today. But yeah, even though Star Wars is obviously different than your standard soap opera that is out there, I do feel like if you watch the show and you think of it in a way of, okay, well, I don't expect for the characters to speak in the same way that you and I would speak, and they speak a little bit differently, then I feel like, again, you might be able to get away with the show. I personally, you guys all know, I still enjoyed The Acolyte. That is going to bring me to point number dos. Another thing that it seems like people had an issue with were the characters. Now, from what it seems like to me, it seems like most people enjoyed characters like Master Soul. They enjoyed characters like Chimere. And so I'm assuming that people probably had more of an issue with characters like Vernestra, Osha, and May. And I just want to defend our girl May, May and Osha, but Osha particularly, I want to just defend her. Something that we have to remember is that Osha is someone that wanted to be a Jedi. And not only did she want that, but she actually got the opportunity to be trained for a short duration of time. Because of her not being able to control her emotions, we all know that she essentially had to stop her training and leave. But I thought about it like this. Osha seems to still have a high regard and admiration for the Jedi. And we all know that the Jedi kind of have a code of conduct, and they have a manner in which they act. They're very mindful. Certain aspects of their character are just very, very controlled. And I think that perhaps maybe Osha, still because she really respects the Jedi, she probably carried on even after she left, certain traits and characteristics that they probably had when they were around her. She probably decided to just carry that on with her, even though she had to essentially leave and stop her training. And so that that kind of brings me to this as well. We cannot forget that Osha and May, they are not fully realized characters. And what I mean by that is that May and Osha are the same person, but they are split apart. So May is never fully herself, and Osha is never fully herself because they're separated. And so that's why I remember even when I was watching the show, I kind of started to think, I was like, you know what? May probably is going to be the popular twin. She's probably going to be the one that people gravitate a bit more so towards because she has more of a dominating type of more of a dominant, in your face, bold type of personality, whereas Osha, she's going to be the opposite. She's more reserved, she's more constrained, she's kind of repressed in nature, she's trying to hold herself a certain way. And just think about it like this. Think back to how Osha was in episode 1 versus how she was in the finale. That fight that she had with her sister May, I had no idea at all that Osha was so skilled in hand-to-hand combat. She was basically doing taijutsu out there with her sister. I was very surprised that she was able to fight as well as she did. And so I think that if Osha had more of that fierceness to her that she had in the finale, and if she carried that more throughout the entire run of the series, I'm thinking maybe people would have been a bit more so drawn to her character. But in the in the overall storytelling of the Acolyte, if you guys might watch my last video, I said that I really felt like the Acolyte really was the origin story of of Osha. It was really for us to get a chance to see how she ended up descending into the dark side and what caused her to kind of just decide to shut off her humanity and go into this new path, into this new direction with Chimere. So that was just me giving my little bit of a 2 cents. I kind of just wanted to step in here and defend Osha because I feel like people, maybe they didn't take too much of a keen interest in her character. But if you think about it in the full context of the story, I can see by her being, essentially split in half from her sister and also still trying to hold on to the Jedi practices that she's been taught, I can see how she was more of a really, really, really holding on to control. And so she didn't have full bursts of us being able to see her full on personality. I think the most that we were able to see her more darker side characteristics or traits was when she was with Chimere, was when he was questioning her, asking her certain things, and we could slowly begin to see those mental blocks that she had set up for herself to keep her kind of sane. We could see them begin to fall and slip apart. And finally, that is going to bring me to point number 3. This is my counter argument as to why it seems like some people did not like the show. This is me countering that. It just seems like overall people found the show boring. It seems like people liked the premise of the story. They liked what essentially the story was supposed to be about, but they did not like the follow through. And this is what I have to say about that. I wonder if people in general would have liked the series more if it was actually a Star Wars movie and not a series. But I thought about this as well. More than likely, the people behind the scenes were probably thinking, let's not do a movie because we're not bringing in original characters back to this. We're not going to see Luke. We're not going to see Princess Leia or Han Solo or Chewbacca or any of these characters. And so in a way, the sequel trilogy, we could maybe kind of get away with that because we have these new characters like Rey, Finn, and Poe, but we're still bringing in the old characters that people love back into the sequel as well. Whereas this one, they thought in a movie format, maybe some people might not be as interested because we don't recognize any of these characters. They're completely new. Let's just put this in a series. And again, I can understand that mindset. I can understand why they went in that direction. But if they would have just really, really focused and honed in on Osha, May, Chimere, Master Soul, I think that people would have taken to this series a little bit more. And particularly if they would have focused on the dynamic between Osha and Chimere, I think people would have really liked that, because regardless of whether or not people were huge fans of the sequel movies, most people really love the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren. And it's the same for me. We had fantastic characters in The Force Awakens like Finn, but unfortunately him in The Last Jedi and in The Rise of Skywalker, it's like they almost completely basically shut his character down, which was, oh my gosh, I don't know why they did his character like that. Finn was my favorite character in The Force Awakens. He was my favorite. But Kylo Ren and Rey, they were able to, them together, their dynamic together, that is what really made me be able to still enjoy the sequel trilogy. If they would have done the same thing for this series, The Acolyte, focus on Chimere and focus on Osha, I think people would have really, really loved that dynamic as well. And so that's probably going to be where I kind of end this video off, but go ahead and let me know down in the comment section below, what were aspects of the show that you still really enjoyed, and yeah, just let me know really, like, what do you guys think about the show in general? Did you really, really, really enjoy it? Was this one of your favorite pieces of like Star Wars, things that have come out in recent years? Go ahead and let me know down in the comment section below. And while you're at it, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like this video to help your girl out with the YouTube algorithm, and also do not forget to hit the bell for notifications so that you guys can see when I post my next video. I have a lot more fun content coming up that's for Star Wars, but is also for some other novels, movies, and trilogies, and series, and all that good stuff out there. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, so stay tuned. Until then, as always, may the Force continue to be with us all, and you shall all see me in my next video. Bye, guys.